Dr. Johnson, thanks for joining Yahoo News for this conversation.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You're one of many people vying for the appointment of Senator Isakson's seat, which he's about to leave. Why do you believe you're the best to be chosen by Governor Kemp?
Well, I think there's several reasons. I think the fact that I've been in Washington, D.C. for the past 2.5 years, actually, working as a part of the administration, working with members of the House, working with members of the Senate. Plus, I bring 35 years of business experience, and I think I bring a business-minded set to what we're about. And I think some of the issues that I'm focused on, in particular the student loan issue, is critically important at this point in time.
It's an odd position for a Republican to be running in, particularly in a southern state that likes its Republicans pretty far to the right. What kind of feedback have you received from Georgians about that position?
Well, actually, I had an opportunity to meet with quite a few Republicans last week at an event in Georgia, and a large number of them came up to me and said that they were impressed that I was being as bold in terms of bringing forth the ideas that I had. I categorize myself as being a moderate Republican. I'm certainly somebody that believes in the Republican values, or I wouldn't be declaring myself as being a Republican, but at the same time, I think you can get a lot done without having to be at the extreme.
I looked at your website, and you also called for major infrastructure investments.
Yes.
Along with your plan to cancel student debt, that's a very, very significant amount of money that the federal government would have to outlay. Where will we get it?
So when you look at the $1.6 trillion, which is basically what it is, yes, that's a lot of money. What people don't realize that a big portion of that is actually accumulated interest. A few $100 billion of that is actually interest that's actually accumulated. So you're looking at the principal. Most important thing is what do we do to finance higher education going forward? And again, I'm a Republican, and I thoroughly enjoy lower taxes. I've got businesses, so I like the fact that we went from a 35% to a 21% tax rate. But I do believe that the funding for higher education or post-high school education, whether it's a jobs training or whether it's academic pursuit, needs to come from the parts of our country that actually benefit from that, and that's for-profit corporations, not-for-profit corporations, of course, government entities. So I'm asking for corporate America to put forth a investment in America equal to 1% top line, but with the proviso would not exceed the total 21% tax that we have today.
Similar plans introduced by Senator Sanders, Senator Warren have been described as socialism, or at the very least, policy far to the left of where most Americans are. And you're running in a state that's actually fairly conservative, as you just said.
Right.
What makes you think a plan that is fairly radical would work in a state that's fairly conservative?
Well, first of all, it's not radical. When you think about the concept of matching the source of funding with the use of funding, in this case, the source of funding be from corporate America, for-profit and not-for-profit, with the use, which is to educate a workforce from which those organizations can draw from. I mean, every day corporate America makes capital investments. They make investments in IT. They make investments in buildings. They make acquisition investments. Why not make an acquisition investment in the workforce that you actually want to draw from? I've talked to quite a few people, and they actually say that it's the first time it makes sense.
By the same logic, couldn't we say that more needs to be done to shore up Obamacare, and we should be, the subsidy payments that the Trump administration has canceled should be reinstituted, the individual mandate should be reinstated? Applied to health care, it seems that your argument would hold.
I don't think so. If you look at the terrible mess that the federal government has made out of being in the student loan business, and you were to carry that same type of, I call it direct government oversight and engagement into health care, it would make this huge issue that we've got with student loans look like a tempest in a bathtub if you were to take the same type of approach and apply it on the healthcare side.
So in healthcare, you favor less government, but in at least to a degree in student loans, you favor government intervention to at the very least restructure the way we
Now, what I favor in education, higher education, is that the government get out of the loan business. Recognize that we still have to fund to some level basically a good, which is the thing that America needs, which is an educated workforce. But I think it needs to be with a defined limit and not an unlimited situation. And certainly we shouldn't be positioning ourselves as a third-party payer that can be drawn upon from a funding source by schools at will. So my basic approach on each of those cases is within limits, but certainly not as the replacement agent for the private markets.
But I mean, a $50,000, the $50,000 that either current or past students would be eligible for, I mean, that certainly sounds like a subsidy.
Well, it sounds like basically a social good in the sense that we really recognize that we need educated workforce. But that's a lot better than the fact that we have a number of people right now that owe us more than $1 million. We have a significant number of people that owe us more than $500,000, and we have just a whole lot of folks that owe us over $200,000. So I would much rather be saying, here's $50,000, and that'll get you absolutely through an undergraduate degree, in many cases well on your way to a graduate degree. But it's far better than people just saying they could show up and through a Parent Plus loan or a Grad Plus loan take down hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Johnson.
Well, thank you so much. This is different. I've never done this before, but thank you very much.